That's your good.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Nyia Harris here. Thanks for tuning in to Power 104.7, your home for hip hop and R&B. So I want to share with you that this is kind of we're kind of going to redo episode 4 here. Why are we redoing episode 4? Well, let me tell you, there was a little technical issue with the audio. So we're redoing this, but I'm delighted to have back my two guests from last week, LeBrent Speed and Cassandra Davis Speed. Hi, guys. How's it going?
Good. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for being here.
It's
Thanks
good
for
to be here.
rearranging your schedule and being here again.
Yes, it was. We play it all back.
Yes, we'll play it all back for sure, for sure. Well, you know, I like to get into pop culture. See, you've done this before, so you know exactly
Yes.
what I'm going to say. So I like to get into pop culture. I think something that's kind of like weighing on my mind a little bit is like what happened over the weekend, with this terrible, the gunman going after these lawmakers. You know, he had kind of a political assassination list of sorts, and it's just devastating, right? And particularly for us, because that's close to home for us. We both live in Brooklyn Park, different parts of Brooklyn Park, and we just, yeah. What are you thinking? How are you feeling? I mean, it's just a few days, or just a couple days after it happened, and the gunman has been caught because it was a whole manhunt thing for like 40 plus hours. How are you guys feeling?
It's heavy. I mean, honestly, being connected to it, getting the alarms in the morning, and then starting to piece in the information, and obviously, the inconvenience that we felt is a fraction of the families that were impacted. These are people who just living their lives and serving their community, and to be gunned down in your own home. Like, my heart, we have, because we're in Brooklyn Park and what we do and living here, Minnesota's not that big, so we all know people who will either know them or close to them. And I mean, we've had long conversation with Senator Hoffman, and it's just these are just good people. They're just normal people that just serve, and for someone to like do that, it's so hurtful. And so yeah, it's just heavy. It's a heavy weekend, and then a lot of events were canceled, which we want to be in Juneteenth celebration mode.
Yeah.
But it was difficult because you did an event, we're at different events, and it's difficult because we have all these people we know in proximity. So navigating that was just it's a heavy weekend for Minnesotans, and especially if you live in the northern suburbs. It's definitely heavy. So
Yeah.
I think we all still feel it.
Yeah, absolutely. Cassandra, what are you thinking? How are you feeling?
It as someone that feels, I'm empathetic, and so to feel the energy around me and to feel the heaviness of the impact of what was happening and the uncertainty of it all just weighs. And my heart hurts for those directly impacted, the families that have lost their loved ones, waiting for healing, for the Hoffman family. Just taking all of that in is just really hard, but still wanting to come together as community. I'm so grateful that I was able to participate in Juneteenth and some of the other activities and come together with people, because it shows us that community is so necessary, and it's sad that it takes moments like this to remind us of that. But my heart hurts for those that don't have community and are looking for community, and I'm super grateful for the communities that I do have and can connect into.
Yeah. Speaking of one of those communities, we'll pivot a little bit. Great segue into B3. LeBrent, founder of B3 Project, right? We just talked about that today. We just had a networking event today, like the B3 Project, Better Black Business Project, is a community, right? Even on the event that you just mentioned, right? That I emceed, that there were so many of us out there. And Rashim said we missed an opportunity to have a B3 photo because there were so many of us, but it was really good.
We're on different places though, so it was kind of hard to get everybody together. But
yeah,
the vision for the B3 even when I came up with it, I've been involved with networking and business development for years, and just as an African American, we often talk about we need to support each other more and let's do more, let's build community. But it's hard to create community without shared values, and we can't just assume people have the same values. And so I knew it started with that. The first thing I created was what are the shared values I want to share, and I think other people want to connect with. That was the first thing, and then I built the format from there. And obviously, there were some plans, some visions down the road, but the first thing is community, and I never knew how much I would need the community as much as I have. Like, so the community wasn't just built out of a sense for others, but it was built first and foremost for us. And so as we were there today, it was somewhat of it was different because we didn't have as many as we typically do, which, you guys liked it.
Yeah.
I'm a big crowd person, but what I would say is because the weekend was heavy. And so there were people in our midst that were directly impacted, but people could be emotional, and it didn't have to be like, oh, we're just making money, shut up. It's like, it was a true family community. We was, people hugged, and there were some tears, and I just appreciate that in general. So, like, before we talk about making money, it's like, do we care about people? Do we care about what you care about? And so that's what really draws me closer to what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Cassandra, what do you think?
About B3 and
just today, maybe in particular, coming off of this heavy weekend.
Yeah, it was something that was needed to be plugged into community, to see each of the faces coming in, to get hugs, and to be able to. Sometimes people just need the vibe. They don't need a transaction. They don't need a to-do list or anything like that. They just need to be in a space where there is love and they feel loved and they feel seen, heard, valued, and appreciated. And that's what it felt like today. Like, we're able to just take a moment and inhale, exhale, and just be. And so our hearts need that sometimes. It's part of that, wellness over work. Like, sometimes we just need to be well. And that means checking in with ourselves and with each other, and to be able to have a space that allows us to authentically do that is so appreciated.
Yeah. I speaking of appreciation, I so appreciate both of you just creating this space. I love B3 days. I do. Like, I already wake up early. You both know that, but
Yes,
I'm like, it's B3 day. Yes.
I cry if I can't make it. Literally have cried. I'm like, I can't go.
It is a vibe, though. I would agree with that 100%. Well, we are going to take a quick music break. We'll be back, and we'll get into some of the things that we talked about last week, but also some new things too. But stay with us. You're listening to Power 104.7, your home for hip hop and R&B. I am your host, Nyia Harris, host of Open Book with Nyia Harris. We'll be right back. All right, friends, we are back again on Power 104.7, your home for hip hop and R&B. My name is Nyia Harris, and I am the host of Open Book with Nyia Harris. Let's get into it, LeBrent and Cassandra. So last week we talked about a lot of things, actually, relationships, and we talked about B3, of course. We talked a little bit about that before the break. But something really exciting is happening with B3 coming up in about 3 weeks. LeBrent?
Coming up quick.
You got the floor. What's happening in 3 weeks?
Well, so in 3 weeks, we are doing a business camp for youth at Bethel University, July 9th through the 11th. It's for ages 14 and 20. And what we want to do is give our kids an opportunity to learn firsthand from entrepreneurs on a variety of subjects like, trades businesses, food businesses. We have lawyers. We have all types of businesses, strategies in business. And the name of the camp is I'm a Boss Business Camp. And so I want them to think of themselves as a boss. They can take agency and ownership of their life. And as they walk into high school, college, they can remember that they're a boss. So that's the theme, I'm a boss. And so I'm super excited. We got some really, Old National is a sponsor. We have some other sponsors that are coming on, Be the Change with Baker. B3 members are sponsoring, Acer. It's growing. The list is growing because we want to accommodate more kids, and it's a really, really, obviously you're chairing our planning committee, and you'll be doing the work. And I just want to really encourage parents. Like, many of us wish we had this many people taking time out of their schedule to really pour into kids. The next generation needs our help desperately. They are locked in a lot of places. There's a lot of anxieties going on, depressions, and there's a lot of gaps in terms of employment. We need to let them know they can take ownership of their lives, and to have people that are willing to take time for your kids for 3 days. That's invaluable. I just can't. I'm really super pleased with our community that's come together, and they're just like, whatever we need. Like, people are volunteering their time and resources, and I'm just overwhelmed by
Yeah.
the support. And Bethel's been an incredible partner, and we're still piecing it together. And but it's going to be phenomenal. So if you have a young person, 14 to 20, you need to do whatever you have to do to get them there, because I promise you, they won't experience anything like this.
Yeah, I mean, you've talked before. There's no shortage of basketball camps, soccer camps, football camps, any of those sports camps, right? But there's nothing like this, right? Cassandra, I know that you were talking before the break about like your love of serving, right? What do you see your role as in the business camp? What will you be doing?
I'm pretty much going to be the hands and feet.
Mm-hmm.
So what needs to be done, wherever I need to go,
Mm-hmm.
I just want to be able to help be the energy that gets things done.
Sure.
This is an opportunity for young people that it's not either or, it's and both. And I think the more that we provide our young people with information about what's possible, it allows them to make informed decisions about their next chapter.
Absolutely.
So I'm honored to be able to do the things that are laid out. So my husband is the visionary. We've got a team of people, you and Francine leading, that come up with the things that need to be done. I'm the one that helps to execute. You need this copied. You need someone to have a conversation. You need something put together. That's my role. That's what I enjoy doing. That's my heart.
Okay. I want to make a prediction. My prediction is that as we get closer, right? Like we're 3 weeks out. As we get closer, like more, like the momentum is building, right? Like the excitement is building, and that more people will want to be on board. That's what I predict.
Oh, it's going to happen. I 100% believe it. And because when you're doing something unique and special, I've talked to some large organizations like, this is really cool, but it's your first year. I'm like, we can't keep putting stuff off.
Yeah.
This is an urgent need for our young people. And really, we're going to close the wealth gap. Our kids need to know how to take ownership of their lives. They can't just be workers for the rest of their life. Like, we have to show them what it means to take ownership and entrepreneurship of their lives. So I'm really, man, I'm stoked. It's been a lot of late nights and early mornings, but I'm ready for it. So it's going to be a big deal. We want the way it's built up is a little special too. So that Wednesday, the kickoff, the parents come with them, so they get to hear what we'll be doing. They get to be a part of the process. Then the Thursday and Friday, it's all day the kids, breakfast and lunch, and the classes, breakout sessions. And then that Friday, the last session, we invite the parents and guardians back to experience the last session together. As we talk about how do we create an environment that causes the young person, the youth to grow, but also the parent. Because we can't give them all this energy and excitement. So I can do anything. And then we put them in the grounds like, well, maybe not. No, we gotta. So that's gonna be an opportunity for me to help prime the parents and the children on how we can create wealth for each other. So it's gonna be a phenomenal experience.
I'm really excited for it. What do you anticipate? Like take me through, like, in a perfect world, like what does it look like for you? What do you want the outcome to be?
For the camp? So a perfect world is that I raise another $20,000 to $30,000 to allow all the kids that want to be there to be there. The perfect world also looks like I just see the buzzing going around. The entrepreneurs, the people where the kids are asking questions. They're doing the whole campus filled with breakout sessions where they're strategizing, talking about the class they just went through, and saying, could you do this? Do you want to do a food business? Maybe you want to be in the trades.
Yeah.
Maybe you're good with your hands. Maybe you want to be analytical. So I just see all this energy, and I see young people saying thank you and their parents for having something they normally wouldn't have. My heart from this comes from, I grew up in North Minneapolis. And I always had this juxtaposition because I was in private schools most of my life, but I also lived in 14th and Penn. So I'm going from this all white world to all black world every day.
Yeah. And
because of some influence, I got like my first briefcase at 10. And so I'd be going down the street with my briefcase. And, as my friends went to basketball camps and other stuff and football camps, I'm like, man, I wish there was like a business camp I could bring my briefcase. And there wasn't anything like that. And there's some other organizations that do that, but we need to have so many that these kids have an opportunity. And as parents, we need to be excited for them. Like, make no mistake, my daughter's 15 and 20, they'll be there.
Yeah.
Are they like, oh, I want to be there? I'm like, no, they may not. But I'm like, this is important.
Yeah.
Because we're going to be talking about credit. How many wish somebody had talked to them about credit at 15?
Yeah.
So when we talk about credit, we're going to have, we have an accounting firm going to be doing a Jeopardy game on finances. We're going to talk about financial sheets, but not in a boring way. You know, everything's accounting like a boss, money boss moves.
Yeah.
We have real estate developers who do real estate development, teaching kids how they develop real estate. Like all these things are just monumental. So yeah, we're super, super excited for what's happening.
I want to ask both of you that if that business camp idea had existed when you were, and you both met in school. We'll talk about that after the break. But if it had existed for you when you were kids, 8, 9, 10, 11, right? How would your lives be different now? Wait, don't answer that. We're going to take a quick break here. We're actually going to go to podcast mode. So I want a quick thank you so much for listening. To our listeners, thank you for listening. Thanks for tuning in to Open Book with Nyia Harris. If you'd like to see the rest of this episode, you'll want to go to my YouTube channel, which is Open Book with Nyia Harris. You'll see that edited episode in just a couple days. But I want to thank you for listening and tuning in, and have a wonderful day. We are back. Okay, so the question before the break here was, how would life be different if you had a business camp? I said 8, 9, 10, 11, but I want to talk about something that Cassandra brought up, which is having a boyfriend at that age. We're going to talk about that. But this particular camp that we were talking about, this children's business camp, is going to be from 14 to 20. So how would life have been different if you had gotten into business camp at 14? Do you mind sharing your age?
Yes, I'm 54.
54. So at 14 years old, if you would have been in business camp, right, what would that have done?
So one of the things I think is really underutilized and underdiscussed, especially in certain circles about business, that mindset is probably more important than methods. A lot of people talk about, well, you got to have this, you got to have money, you got to have resources. All those things are important. But if you look historically from our people, black folks in particular, many of us came from slavery, meaning nothing, and created businesses, sustainable, successful businesses. And if it wasn't for the impact of like systematic oppression and racism that fought against them, may those businesses still be thriving. So what's more important than resources is resourcefulness. And what I really want to, although we're going to give them a lot of strategies and techniques and all that, what's most important to me about this camp is infusing them with an oversized sense of confidence and belief to see, like a lot of people I know kids I was growing up, they weren't the brightest bulbs in the earth, but they became very successful entrepreneurs, not because they're super smart, it's because they had access and they had someone told them, this is what you do. And so it wasn't a matter of if I could do it, it's just we do this. And I think a lot of our kids just don't see themselves sitting in that seat, seeing themselves owning the truck, owning the business, owning the restaurant. They see it on TV. They see it on TikTok. But I'm going to expose them to people who are doing it right here in your city. So we're going to give them, if I got that at 14 with my briefcase, man, there was a lot of confidence that I would have received, that when I went through things, I was like, no, I can do this. I can do this. But I was doing, well, I don't know anyone can do this. This is too hard. I don't have enough money. And so all the excuses became more important. And if that's what I think would have made a difference for me. So when I made failures, I would have known failures is part of the process.
Yeah, they're lessons.
They're lessons. I wouldn't have thought failures were final. And growing up, I thought failures were, I failed. I didn't say, I failed at that business. That means I'm not good at business. No, it just means I messed up.
Yeah.
And so failures are just part of the process. Winston Churchill says that success is going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. That means be able to run through wall after wall without loss of momentum. And to me, that's what I want these kids to know. Failures is part of the process. Don't let it stop you. Just let it fuel you.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Cassandra, we're going to pivot a little bit, but I want to hear from you too. Like, what do you think, had you had access to business camp do you mind sharing your age?
I'm just a little bit younger than he
Okay.
is. No, I'm 54 as well. I'm just a few months younger than him.
Okay, you can still hold that over him, by the way.
I do all the time, absolutely.
2.5 months.
But if you would have had business camp, access to business camp at 14, what would that have done for you?
I think for me, there was just one direction. It was you go to school, go to high school, go to college, graduate, right? And that just never, there was a lot of things that I felt that hindered me from really buying into that and believing it. Like, I call it the lack mindset, the poverty mindset, right? Like, I don't have enough money to go to college. I don't have enough time to go to college. I'm smart, but there's always going to be someone smarter than me. And I think for me, it would have showed me a broader scope of what is possible, and in a tangible way, that it wouldn't have been the superstars that come in from out of town or people that I see on the big screen or see on the news or whatever, that it's actual people that live in my neighborhood that I see at the fast food places and things like that, but that they have taken a course and they've walked a walk, and that it is doable. And to be able to see them, be like, well, I saw you having some rough times, right?
Yeah.
But I could see the practical happening, and instead of it just being either or, either you go to college and graduate from college and move on, or you don't, and then you become this like bad stereotype case.
Yeah.
That there's so much more.
Yep.
And I think that would have given me the confidence to really tune into what speaks to me and what is my journey. Like, there's the journey that my family took, there's the journey that my colleagues and classmates took, but there's a journey and a path for me. And it's so important that every young person understands that there's a specific path for each one of them. And there might be some similarities, but there's going to be a lot of differences.
Yeah.
And that those differences are okay.
Absolutely.
And so in order to see that, we need to see more than just the colleges. I take nothing away from college. I wish I would love to still go back to school, but that there's other routes. There's trades. We need electricians. We need carpenters. We need people in technology. We need people that, work at TSA. We need people that are leaders.
Plumbers.
Childcare, plumbers, all of those different things, right? They're the practical day to day, and that there's so that you can be proud, and you should be proud to walk in those roles. And so not only does it help the young people, but it helps the generation who struggled with, like, I'm just a carpenter. No, you're a carpenter. We need that. You're a plumber. We need that.
Oh, for sure.
And so we need to help redefine what success looks like. And I think that's what it would have done for me. That success doesn't mean that I have a college degree, taking nothing away from those that have their degrees, because that's excellent. I celebrate that. But at the same time, that success comes in so many other different ways. So if you love working with your hands, if you love working with your brain in a different way, there's a lot of different ways to be able to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I wrote that down, by the way. Cassandra likes to drop gems, so I had to write it down. Redefine what success looks like.
Yes.
Yeah, so the go to high school, graduate high school, go to college, graduate college or whatnot, that's one path. But there's like 4 or 5 other paths that you could take, and no path is better than the other, right?
Absolutely
Because
not.
all of those people that you just named, all of those different positions are needed in society,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I actually had my oldest, who's 15. She asked me one time, she's like, Mom, what if I don't want to go to college? I was like, then don't go. I did say, in addition to that, I was like, you're not going to waste my money. You know, I was like, but she's like, but what if I just don't want to go? What if I want to do like something specific? And she's, for the last, I would say, good 3-4 years, she has said, I want to be an artist. I want to be an artist. I want to be an artist. I want to be a graphic artist. But it's always been in that same vein. So,
Well, I applaud you for doing that. That you said, then don't go, but do something, right? And I think that's the purpose of this camp. I'm a boss. I'm a boss wherever I decide to show up, but show up and fully be present.
Yeah.
But in order to do that, you have to know what's expected of you and have people that were willing to walk the journey with you.
Absolutely.
So as a mom, you told your daughter, like, don't go to college. I mean, practically that saves me money, but do something, and let's help figure out what that doing looks like for you.
absolutely. Absolutely. I want to pivot a little bit because I want to jump back to what I had said about having a girlfriend or a boyfriend at 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. Oh, no, Cassandra, I didn't forget. So tell me about this. So you both went to the same school. I know this story, but for our listeners, like, tell us about how you met.
You could tell.
Our mothers were friends when we were children. They met when we were about 8 years old, and we came together as friends. And in the 4th grade, he was going to a private school, and my mother moved my brother and I to that same private school. And in the 4th grade, he asked me, he's like, do you have a boyfriend? And I'm like, no. He's like, I'm your boyfriend. I'm like, okay. And then he runs off to play at recess. And I'm like, wait, don't you like push me on the swing or carry my lunchbox or sit next to me in chapel or something like that? And that was the extent of our boyfriend-girlfriend relationship.
I mean, we did hold hands when we skated, went to roller gardens, but
As he called it, forced interaction.
I think
Was
about
that
it,
like a field trip or something?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I remember like doing stuff like that made me anxious, but but I had a reason why I wanted to make her my girlfriend, but like, cause from kindergarten to 3rd grade, they would always tease me about other girls being my girlfriends, and I didn't think those girls were as cute, to say the least. And they used to say there was only like 2 black kids, and so I'd be the one black guy and then the one black girl, and I didn't think she was very cute. And I remember telling my mom in the 3rd grade, saying, "Mom, I'm never marrying a black girl because they stink, and they're not very cute." And she's like, "I don't stink, I'm cute." And I said, "But I can't marry you." And so the 4th grade, I saw her, and I was like, "Wait a minute, my mom sent her to this school so I could be with her, so I wouldn't, And so then I just asked her to be my girlfriend. She said yes, and I just ran and said, "I got a girlfriend now, so you can't say that anymore."
Yeah.
So I thought that was the extent of it.
So I guess I was a trophy girlfriend then.
Yeah.
See, that's my girlfriend. See?
Yeah. I love it. Like I said, I love that story. But for our listeners, I wanted you to share it again. I wish I could like go back in time and like see you guys, so like what it was like. Okay, so we've talked about the business camp a lot. We've talked about a little bit about how you guys have met. I want to jump back though. What we talked about last week, relationships. So LeBrent, we learned about your relationships. You actually told me a little bit earlier about like what kind of like each marriage looked like for you. But Cassandra, I realized that last week we didn't talk too much about like your relationship. Tell us about, or if you're comfortable, tell us about, we are on Open Book with Nyia Harris. Tell us
an open book.
about your previous relationship.
So I typically found myself in long-term relationships. And it wasn't until prior to just getting connected with him before we started dating and got married that I realized that I was always looking for my husband. I was trying on men like, "Are you my husband?" And I would like act and carry myself as if they were my husbands until they showed me they weren't. So I was always about longevity. The longest relationship I believe was like 16 years.
Oh, wow.
And through the journey of it, one of the things I realized is that I was the common denominator of every failed and successful, relationship. So in going through those relationships, I was accommodating, I was pleasing, I was a people pleaser, but I was allowing myself to not make choices for myself. I wasn't advocating for myself. And so I finally got to a point where I was like, all these failed relationships, things aren't working out. No one's choosing me. I've been proposed to before, but it never came to fruition. And I finally had to say, not from a pity party perspective, like poor me. It was more like, you're the common denominator of these relationships. So what's happening with you that's attracting this situation? What is it that you're doing, not doing? So I had to go through some really deep reflective time and unpack and being honest with myself, which was really hard because it's easy to be so deflective and defensive, like, well, he said that to me and that hurt my feelings and this happened. But the reality of it was there were choices that I was making. There were red flags and alerts that had I acknowledged them and responded to them, things would have went differently.
Sure.
But I actively chose the situations that I was a part of. And so there's some great things, some great, wonderful memories, but there's also a lot of pain that I experienced and even caused. And so, and it's a humbling experience to have to acknowledge that and say it out loud and acknowledge, like, wow, I did some damage. I hurt. Like, I was hurt, but I also, in my hurt, caused hurt to someone else.
Wow. That does take a lot, doesn't it, to say that out, yeah.
Yes.
LeBrent, do you want to share about just brief overview on like your 3 relationships and then of course then your 4th and final relationship, like you two are you're so cute. I just love the both of you.
That's how he got me, was by, he gave me, the switcheroo, I guess. He was like, would you ever date someone that's been to prison before? And I'm like, well, well, it depends. What did you go to prison for? How long have you been out? What have you been doing since you've been out? And he's like, well, good. I've never been to prison before, but I have been married 3 times. And I was like, oh, okay, well, let's unpack that.
You're like, well, 3 times is better than having gone to prison.
So same kind of questions, like, you know, how long has it been? What have you been doing? What did you learn? So.
So, I mean, I didn't think it was better or worse. I just want to see if she had the capacity for forgiveness. Because some people hold things like that against you. And, I mean, I wasn't, you know, I wasn't anxious to be married, per se, after going through what I went through. She asked me when we first started talking. I had known her since we were in 3rd grade. And I had known her family and her friends. I've known people she dated. And it's like she's always was, like, really good. She talks about her mistakes, but people know her from being a really sweet person. And I was like... And she asked me, would you get married again after failing 3 times? I was like, yeah, to you. But I wasn't really, at my stage in my life, I wasn't going to just be with some random I couldn't trust. And so I was feeling more content, but I knew she was an ideal person. And, you know, I knew that she would be a good mate to me. And so that's what it was for me. It was never about, I just got to get married again. After the last time, I wasn't bitter, but I was like, I might want to rock it alone.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of friends that thought maybe I should be alone. Maybe 3 times you tried it and maybe it doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
And I was almost starting to think that. So. Yeah.
But then you had said earlier when we were talking that when we were at the networking, you were talking about how, you know, you did the healing and becoming a whole person and all of that, and how all of that changed you.
Yeah, I mean, therapy is important. I know a lot of black men especially don't talk about therapy, but I really encourage people that if you've been through a relationship challenge and you have not been through therapy, something's wrong. Because oftentimes the biggest thing I see in people as I talk to men and women is most people aren't self-reflective. You know, you always know something's off about a person when they start talking about relationship, and the first thing they do is talk about what the other person did to them. They immediately go to, this person did this, they were a cheater, or they did that. And there's questions that are looming when you do that. One easy question is, you chose them. So why do you keep choosing the same person? Yeah. Second of all, why are those people attracted to you? Because if birds of a feather still flock together. So if you're attracting the same thing over and over again, you're giving off the same energy over and over again. So talking about what your ex did does not help you solve your problems. So I didn't come into the situation like, well, this one did this and this one did that. It's like, no, I was the common denominator. Why did I attract it? How do I repel it? That's the only questions I ask. And so as I started going through therapy and my own development, you know, I'm big on books and reading and coaching, watching people in successful marriages. I stopped taking advice from people who are, didn't have no success in their relationships. Like, I realized something as I went through it very acutely, I realized something. People who can't control their relationships are apt to give you advice about yours. And I realized it. And actually, the first person that told me that was a therapist. And she was a client of mine. We ended up talking half a day. She was a family therapist. And she said, always be leery of people who are quick to tell you relationship advice. Because she said from research, 85% or more of them have horrible relationships. Because people with good relationships know the challenge, and they're usually waiting, and they'll be told. They're not going to push that on you. They're waiting for you to ask. And then I started trying that out. I'm like, yes, most of the people are quick to tell you stuff have horrible relationships. I'm like, yes, it's just that. And I was like, ding, 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 ding.
Sure.
And so people who were like in the cut didn't talk a lot about it. And I was like, hey, can you tell me? It seems like your wife actually likes you. And so, and I noticed that a lot of men. I started reading women. I go talk to guys. I'm reading, and whatever he's talking about relationships, I'm looking to see his wife. Does she vibe what he's saying? How's her body language? How's she looking at him? And if something's off, if she's not vibing what he's saying, either he doesn't live that, or she doesn't believe it. Either way, it doesn't work in his family. So I need to find someone that believes it. And so when I talk to guys and his wife's rubbing, I'm like, yes, he's so good at it. And it's like they're really in tune like that. And I'm like, listen more to him. Yeah. And as I start to do it, it really helps. Listen, it's not that I'm not that smart, but I'm like, man, certain people got good wisdom and certain people have horrible wisdom. Yeah. And you got to learn how to avoid those people.
I guess so. There's some good gems. There's some good gems from LeBrent too, Cassandra.
Yes. You can write about LeBrent gems.
LeBrent gems. I love it.
I want LeBrent jumps. Thank you. Thank you.
What would you say, Cassandra? I'm going to ask you too, LeBrent, but I want to ask you first, Cassandra. What would you say to someone who says, I want a man who's 6 feet. He needs to have a 6-figure bank account. He needs to drive this kind of car. I'm not settling for less. I'm a prize. Da 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 da. What do you say to that woman, right?
I think I probably have more questions than something to say.
Oh, tell me the questions.
Well, I think, why do those things matter to you? What is that, in finding someone that brings that to the table, what does that mean to you? What does that do for you? What are you bringing to the table? What other characteristics are important to you? Because all those tangible things you can get in any other way, right? It makes, I ask people to take a step back. Like, what do you want in a relationship? Because a relationship isn't just all sunshine and butterflies, right? There's good times, but there's a lot of challenging times. There's a lot of growth that has to happen, and relationships, there's business aspects to it as well. So I kind of take a step back. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like, I want to get to know them more, because there's something, either there's a disconnect as far as what a relationship really is, or there's this barrier that's been put up. Like, I'm not going to let someone get close to my heart, so I'm going to focus on the tangible things, because those are the things that that's going to bring me joy. And that also tells me, though, that you might not be willing to give as much, right? Because if you're thinking about what you're going to get and it's all practical and tangible things, what about his heart? What about when he can't provide 6 figures? What about those moments? Like, are you willing to help do what needs to be done in order to take care of things? Yeah. So there's a lot of questions that I'd want to get to know them better. And like my husband said, I'm not one to like jump in and give advice. Like, I'm very careful. I wait until I'm invited in or asked. I don't, unless I have a great relationship with somebody, we're locked in, and I know from previous experience that they're open to it. I'm not one to like, can I share something with you?
Yeah.
I wait for the cues to make sure.
Okay, so you're not one to give unsolicited advice.
No, I try not to. I'm not saying I've never done it, but I really try not to, especially being as self-reflective as I am, because more often than not, the very thing that I'm sharing with somebody else is turned around and really is for me too. So there's times when I'll say things like, I felt good about sharing that, and then I'll think about it, and I'm like, oh, that's something I need to apply to my own life too.
Yeah, you're very self-reflective.
I have to be. Yes. I have to be.
That's what she likes to say. He's like, Cassandra said. LeBrent, I want to ask you the same question, but flip it on its head, right? So, like, the female, if a man is saying, oh, well, she's got to be 36, 24, 36. She got to look like this. She got to be this. Not necessarily the bank account thing, but like how she looks. If she doesn't look like, I'm a prize. If she doesn't look like this, she doesn't look like an hourglass shape. If she doesn't look like she works out or whatever, I'm not messing with her. What do you say to that? Or do you say anything to that?
Yeah, I don't know. I actually do have a men's ministry, so men come to me a lot, and I do mentor people. I don't think I really have conversations like that. I don't know. That's a good question. That's very interesting, but I think that seems really shallow. And so when I talk to men about relationships, obviously I'm very attracted to my wife, and my kids say, she fits my type, whatever. But I feel she was the prototype, since she was the 4th grade. So she was the prototype. But, I'm very attracted. I think my wife's beautiful. And so I don't think there's nothing wrong with being attracted to the person. But again, just like my wife said, like, what's the deeper stuff? Like, attractiveness goes so far.
Right.
But when you have real challenges, emotional intelligence, if you got a woman that really supports you, like, I can't talk about enough. Like, everyone talks about my wife. Like, oh, Cassandra's smart, she's wise. Like, that's invaluable. Like, even biblically it talks about a Proverbs 31 woman that's got wisdom. Like, that, you can't quantify that. Like, even what I do in business, like, to have her there, everyone's like, man, Cassandra's the best. And that's not a fake thing. Like, for me, when men say she's my peace, like, my wife is more peaceful than any woman I know, and more wise. And so therefore, how could I quantify that? Like, and they're doing all that, and I'm like, but you never have peace. You're always talking about you're arguing, fighting. It's like, I just be like, sometimes I'll just like avoid the conversation with guys, or I'll just leave. I can't be around disruption. My wife is not, she's peaceful. She is my peace. So I'm like, man, and I realize you attract what you are. I couldn't attract her until I was peace. Until I create a space of peace, then she could be who she is. If you keep attracting chaos, you are chaos.
Wow.
Yeah, you can't act like, I don't know why I keep attracting chaos. You're chaotic, and you enjoy the thrill of chaos. And so I don't really have those those shallow kind of conversations, because most of them are either saying, yeah, I want one like this, and they're either juggling women or, you know, they're unfaithful. It's like, how do you? I had a friend of mine. It's like, man, I didn't know when me and Cassandra started dating. He's a very nice looking dude, and he's like, man, I'd be honest with you. If I knew she was single, I might have shot my shot at her. I'm like, oh, it didn't offend me at all.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, really? Yeah. He said, well, I mean, I like a relationship like that. I said, well, you probably won't have it. And he's like, what? And he said, you know, a nice looking dude, makes good money. He was way fitter than me. I said, but you're not willing to give what I give. Like, you can't beat me because you can't give her your all. I wouldn't make her part of a staple. I would make her, my wife doesn't worry about me cheating. She doesn't worry about me. She can check my phone. Like, women that know me know I don't mentor quote unquote women where I'm trying to like get at women. Like, I'm not creepy.
Yeah.
So I'm not, my wife can trust me so she can be more peaceful because she knows that when I go out, I represent her. Nobody's worrying about, well, I saw your husband. He was like, that ain't never gonna happen.
Yeah.
And no woman, I'm not sliding in no woman's inbox. And if you slide at me weird, I'm like, excuse me. Plus I don't have very much vocal, you know,
He doesn't have a filter.
So if you disrespectful, like, you gonna get it. So, and women know that. My wife's like, women check me out. I don't think that happens, but if it does, I don't really care and I don't pay attention to it because I don't want that chaos in my life. I would never disrupt my peace. So again, you got to attract what you are. Yeah. I want peace. I create peace in my home. I'm emotionally regulated, and so I tell my wife, hey, honey. When she gets a little irregulated, I'm like, okay, I'm going to regulate myself. I can't regulate us both. I need you to regulate you. Because I'm going to regulate me. Yeah. So when she's like, and I say, do I regulate me? And she's like, absolutely. I said, okay, then. I'm just asking you to do the same thing. And then because she's like, yeah, I'm right. Because she self-reflects, it's like, I'm a little dysregulated. I'm like, hey, we all have those. But, you know, we always get back to equilibrium.
You both really have like a team mentality, and I really love that about the two of you. The saddest thing about this moment right now is that our time has come to an end, seriously. But I think you dropped a lot of gems, both of you. Yeah. I wrote it down, LeBrent gems.
Yes, I have LeBrent gems too.
It has been my absolute pleasure to be your host, again, of Open Book with Nyia Harris, and my two guests, who are also my friends, Cassandra Davis Speed, LeBrent Speed. Thank you so much for being here last week, being here this week. Yes.
We won't be here next week.
That's a perfect tee up. Thank you for that. My guest next week will be Scooter John, he of Honored to Help. And do you know him, LeBrent?
I don't think so.
That's actually John Baker's, I think it's his cousin.
Oh.
Yeah. I met him at the Be the Change event. Oh. So anyway, we'll learn more about him. I had coffee with him. We had a great discussion. I told him I'm doing this, and he's like, yeah, I'd love to be on that. So tune in next Monday, 3:30 live, Power 104.7, your home for hip hop and R&B. I'll be back again with another episode, my 5th episode. Yay! I don't have a button for that, so I just have to do it myself. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you.